commemoration of the day that the Buddha came down from the Tawatingsa heaven. So it's a holiday that occurs towards the end of the rainy season. So we recollect the birth of the Bodhisattva. So this birth of the Bodhisattva, what happens in the case of all the different Buddhas is that the mother of the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be, dies 7 days after the birth. So this was the case with Mahamaya, the name of the mother of our Buddha. And after death, she was reborn in the Tushita heaven as a male deva. And then after that, she took a birth in the Tawa Tingsa heaven, another heaven realm lower than the Tushita heaven. And this is something that is typical for the mothers of Buddhas. This is the pattern that they follow. And before the birth of the Buddha, the Indra, the Deva king of the Tawatingsa heaven, as well as other Devas, asked the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be, who at that time was also a Deva on the level of the Tushita heaven. They asked the Bodhisattva to come down and be born in the human world so that he could realize Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. So after this invitation from the Devas, the mother Mahamaya, she had a dream of a white elephant holding a lotus in its trunk, coming down into her womb. So this is the meaning of this dream is that the Bodhisattva was entering her womb to take a human birth. And after this dream, then the Queen Mahamaya, the mother of the Bodhisattva, would feel great love arise in her heart. And there are miraculous elements of this birth, conception, and growth in the womb of the Bodhisattva. So when the Bodhisattva grows in the womb of his mother, the mother Mahamaya can actually see the Bodhisattva growing in her womb, see clearly the Bodhisattva growing in her own womb, and this is a miracle that occurs. And also the Bodhisattva in the womb of his mother enters deep absorption, concentration in jhana of a high level while still in the womb. And when entering the womb and when in the womb, the Bodhisattva is said to have clear and balanced mindfulness and clear comprehension, even as he comes down from the heaven realm. So this Bodhisattva, soon to be Buddha, has this great radiance and a mind that's full of parami, much more than a normal level of parami. So this is what allows the mother to be able to see the Bodhisattva in the womb. And this is what allows the Bodhisattva to realize the high level of samadhi. And this is the spiritual perfections, the parami that the Bodhisattva had built in the past. And similarly, the mother of the Bodhisattva, Queen Mahamaya, she also had cultivated much parami in order to hold the position of being the mother of the Buddha and to be able to see the Bodhisattva sitting in meditation and seeing the Bodhisattva in her womb. And the mother of the Buddha feels such a great happiness, more so than others in the world, more so than a worldly happiness. And she follows the 5 precepts very strictly, and follows the 8 precepts on the lunar observance days, on the Aposita days. And she is filled with goodness and happiness at all times with the Bodhisattva in her womb. So after growing in the womb, when it was close to the time to give birth to the Bodhisattva, she went to ask her husband, the father of the Bodhisattva, King Suddhodana, to ask him for permission to go to her parents' home to give birth, which was the custom at the time in India. So the king gave his permission, and the queen Mahamaya set out for her parents' home to give birth. And on the way to her parents' home, they were passing through the area of Lumbini, passing through a forest there, and they stopped to rest. And as they were stopped to rest, Queen Mahamaya, while she went to rest under a tree, while under that tree there, while standing, she gave birth to the Bodhisattva at that time. And so we see that this location of Lumbini is a very important place as a place to recollect the birth of the Bodhisattva. So after the Bodhisattva was born, he took 7 steps, and 7 lotus flowers arose under his feet for each step. And these 7 flowers, we can say, symbolize the 7 parts of India that the Buddha would go on to spread the Dhamma to and teach. And at the end of the 7 steps, the newly born Bodhisattva makes a statement that this is my last birth. I am the foremost in the world. And this is a great miracle that occurs. So the Bodhisattva had just been born, so had not had yet the time to study and learn how to speak and do these things. But due to the great accumulated parami of the Bodhisattva was capable of speaking and walking and accomplishing this miracle. So this is all due to the parami that the Bodhisattva had built. And we can even look at an example of the current day of a great master named Luang Pu Fan, where he was able to enter a very deep samadhi, a deep state of jhana, and his body felt very light, felt no heaviness, and even despite encountering difficulties or troubles while in the forest there, he's able to not get injured or to still be in a state of good health. And we can say that this state of jhana took care of him. Like the power of the deep samadhi was able to take care of him. And this deep samadhi, this power of jhana, it's capable of making unusual things happen. Things that normally could not happen are able to happen through the power of this deep concentration. So similarly, the Bodhisattva with his full parami could do things that were unusual or typically not able to occur. And then growing up as a child, the Bodhisattva, the Buddha-to-be, was a very exceptional student, was a great student in all the different subjects of the day, of the arts and sciences and the skills of warfare. In every single subject, the Bodhisattva was the best and excelled greatly. And why should this be? Why is this? This is because of the parami of the Bodhisattva. And having built so much parami over so many lives, the Bodhisattva had already learned everything, already had learned all the different worldly subjects and all these different lives, and it also cultivated a great intelligence as well. And the Venerable Ananda, who at that time was the same age, was a childhood playmate and fellow student of the Bodhisattva, he was also a very great student and excelled in all of the subjects, but he was not as excellent or as skilled in all these things as the Bodhisattva. So growing up, King Suddhodana, the father of the Bodhisattva, he had heard a prophecy that his son would, due to the 32 great marks present on his body, he heard from the wise sages of the day and the Brahmins that if his son were to go forth, he would be a self-awakened Buddha who could teach the path to freedom. But if he stayed as a layperson, then he would be what is known as a wheel-turning monarch, which is a great monarch that can conquer all four directions without violence, and comes to control and rule over the entire Indian subcontinent in a peaceful way. So the king really wanted his son to be this wheel-turning monarch, which is considered to be the greatest or most powerful monarch one could be. And so therefore King Suddhodana endeavored that his son should never see old age, never see sickness, never see death. And so growing up at the age of 16, the Bodhisattva married Yasodhara, who was the younger sister of Devadatta, also known as Queen or Princess Bimba. And also they had a son named Rahula. And this name Rahula, it actually means something like a tie or a burden. And so you can see that Rahula, the son, being a tie or a burden. You can also see all wealth is a tie that binds. Having a spouse is a tie that binds. All these things in the world are ties that bind one to the world and are burdensome. And so when the Bodhisattva went forth, this was him sacrificing all this happiness, all these different types of happiness, in order to find an even greater wealth, an even greater happiness than the things that he already knew. And he even tortured his body in many different ways through severe asceticisms on the path to realize this supreme happiness. And then, as we know, the Bodhisattva went to sit under the Bodhi tree and realized the great self-awakening, realized Buddhahood at that time. And this then led to the dispensation of the Buddha lasting for a long time and prospering in India for a long time. And during this period of the Lord Buddha teaching in India, there was one rainy season retreat, the traditional 3 months during the rainy season where the monastic community stays in one dwelling. And during this particular year, in that rainy season retreat, the Lord Buddha spent the rainy season retreat in the Tawatingsa heaven, also known as the heaven of the 33 gods. And during that rainy season retreat, he taught the Abhidhamma, and he taught his mother, who at that time was a deva in that heaven realm. He taught her, and she was able to realize the first level of enlightenment, stream entry. So on this day, we recollect the qualities of the Buddha, and we recollect the goodness of the Buddha on this day that we commemorate his returning to the human world from the Tawatingsa realm. And when the Buddha came down to the human world from the Tawatingsa heaven, all the different devas followed the Buddha down as well, and many different humans were waiting in the human world to receive this great procession with the Buddha at its head. So today we give alms, do dana, practice sila, and we recollect this great occasion. And may we also see the Dhamma through this act of recollection and through this practice, following in the footsteps or using the Buddha's mother as an example, who also saw the Dhamma. And this teaching the Buddha gave in the Tawatingsa heaven gave rise to immense benefits. This teaching of the Abhidhamma, and many, many devas were able to see clearly into the truth, to see the Dhamma and realize various stages of enlightenment. We could even say hundreds of thousands, even millions of devas saw the Dhamma during this period of the Lord Buddha teaching in the Tawatingsa heaven. And in being the Buddha had these such great qualities to a full extent, and was able to teach effectively in the Tawatingsa heaven. So we recollect this goodness, and we recollect the great loving kindness that the Lord Buddha had for his parents. And looking at the Tawatingsa heaven, this is the heaven realm that Lord or King Indra, he is the Deva king of that realm, and along with 32 other high-ranking devas or angels or gods, then this equals the 33 gods that give that heaven realm its name. And these 33 devas who get reborn in this Tawatingsa realm, they did a great amount of goodness and parami building in the past in order to be born in that state, in that heaven realm. So we can say that they were born from doing this goodness and doing this, building this parami. And this is goodness and parami that they did in the human world. And we can ask, where is this heaven realm? It's right here in our hearts. Just like the state of Nibbana, of the deathless, is also in our hearts. So this Dhamma arises right here in our hearts. It doesn't arise anywhere else. And looking at this practice of generosity, of giving dana, this gives rise to happiness right here in our hearts. The practice of virtue, the practice of samadhi, gives rise to happiness right here in our hearts. And looking at the experience of suffering, suffering also arises right here in our hearts. So when we succeed in seeing the Dhamma, this arises right here in our hearts. So we can see that all these things arise in our hearts, and the heart is the leader. It's the most important. So the Lord Buddha has entered final Nibbana, Parinibbana already, and we can say that the Dhamma is still here. So we practice the Dhamma following the teachings of the Buddha, and doing so we are able to see the Buddha in the present day, in the present time. So we study the Dhamma, we do right livelihood, which means a pure livelihood, and we practice not being heedless. And we recollect the Buddha coming down from the Tawatingsa heaven, and we recollect this, all the goodness that occurred around this occasion. And recollecting this, we do our practice of giving, of virtue, listening to Dhamma, and we come to study and practice and to grow and develop in the Dhamma. And we have this no one who knows, the knower, the knower in the heart. And we can even use this human life to study worldly subjects. So we can see if we're not yet fully enlightened, if we're not yet arahants, then we should be proficient in worldly subjects. We should be able to study effectively, such as studying language, art, science, and so on. And this, we can see this as building parami first. And then when it's time and when our parami is full, then we can see clearly old age, sickness, and death, and see that we are not exempt from these conditions. Just like Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahamoggallana, when it was time, they reflected on these drawbacks and they went forth to seek the truth, to seek a way out of the never-ending cycle of birth and death. And so we can think of this and recollect this for ourselves, that when it's time, then we seek the truth. We can look at Venerable Sariputta, who was the great disciple, foremost in wisdom, second only to the Buddha, and great Mahamoggallana, who was foremost in psychic power, again second only to the Buddha. And looking at this greatness and psychic power that Mahamoggallana had, you can see that in the Buddha's time in the past, it was a time of psychic powers, and many individuals were known to have psychic powers. And using the power of one's mind, one could know anything one wished to. One can do many miraculous feats. And if we look at the present day, we can see that it's more of the age of computers. So using computers, one can know many different things in the world and do many things that previously were not possible. However, in the Buddha's time, this faculty of psychic power, one could know things in a much more detailed and much more subtle way, know things that are beyond the range of modern day computers. And in order to get such a level of psychic power, one must cultivate parami, and cultivate this ability over many millions of years and countless lifetimes. So it's something that's not easy to come by. And for us, it's good enough that we seek cessation in our hearts and come to the end of suffering in our hearts. So when we recollect the Buddhas coming down from the Tawatings of heaven, this was an occasion miraculous in different ways. One way was that when the Devas, so the Devas followed the Buddha coming down from the heaven realm and being received by the humans, we can say that the Buddha opened up the worlds, so all beings could see all the other beings, which is something that is very rare to have occur. So all beings could see the Buddha, and the worlds opened, meaning all the humans could see all the Devas, and even the lower realms beings and the Devas could see all the humans. And we call this the world's opening, because all the different beings of the different realms could all see one another, which is normally not the case. So this is a great miracle that came about through the power of the Buddha, and people felt such a great rapture and deep happiness on this occasion when this miracle occurred as the Buddha came down. So we can also call this the day that the Buddha opened up the worlds. So we practice the Dhamma and we see the truth in our own hearts, and we know the truth in our own hearts. And this seeing of other worlds, this ability for the Buddha to open up the worlds and the humans could see the Devas and see the different realms. This is seeing the world and seeing things on the outer level. So now the task before us is to practice to see the world clearly in our own hearts, to see things in our own hearts. So we recollect the mother of the Buddha, Queen Mahamaya, who realized the stage of enlightenment of stream entry, who saw clearly the Dhamma, and also the many countless devas who became enlightened beings as well. So we can recollect them as the practice of recollecting the Sangha, and as well recollecting the goodness of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha on this occasion. So we practice to see the Dhamma clearly, and when we really know this truth clearly, then one will not need to be born again. One will see Nibbana clearly in the heart and see the Dhamma. So may you all practice diligently. May you all be well and happy, succeed, and grow in the Dhamma.